everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the Cherry Bakewell Diaries. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the children's story and recipe books that I've written in memory of my mum. So in 2019 it marked 40 years since I lost my mum to cancer, and I thought, as she was the one that started me cooking and taught me how to cook, it would be quite nice to do something in memory of her. So I wrote my first children's story recipe book, which is Cherry Bakewell Stories from My Kitchen. Now, it's got 7 short stories in it and recipes as well. Now, some of the stories are fictional, but some of them are based on the memories I had with my mum and some of the things we used to get up to, some of the funny stories as well. So the first book, Cherry Bakewell Stories from My Kitchen, as I say, there are 7 short stories, and the first story is a visit to Auntie Jess. And what happens in this story is they go and visit Auntie Jess, who's not feeling very well, and they make her some soup. They make some carrot and parsnip soup. Now, in the story, Cherry describes to her daughter, Peaches, how to make the recipe. And then at the end of the chapter, you'll see that the recipe is actually printed. Now, you'll notice that some of the ingredients are in red. Now, what children have to do, they have to collect these red ingredients, write them down on a piece of paper. Then at the end of the book, after the 7 chapters, they'll have a list of ingredients. They've got to guess what recipe those ingredients will make. So it's a very interactive book. They've got to write all the ingredients down and then guess what it's going to make. So there's a secret recipe at the end. So it's quite interesting. It's quite exciting for them as well. They've got to sort of guess what they're going to make. So that's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is about mushroom picking. So Cherry gets her daughter up early in the morning, very, very early, and they go mushroom picking. And because she's got an idea for lunch, so they get up really early and go and collect all the mushrooms in the woods, and they come home and they make cheesy rainbow vegetables with ham. And chapter 3 is all about honeybees. Now, Peaches goes to school, and while she's at school, the teacher's talking to them about how honey's made from bees and how the bees transfer the nectar to make honey. So they have this discussion on making honey, and they have to draw a picture of a bee. Well, when she comes out of school, she shows the picture of the bee to her mum that she's made, and it gives her some inspiration. There's the picture of her showing her the picture of the bee, and it gives her inspiration of what to cook for lunch or for dinner that day. And they end up making honey and ginger chicken. So it's, as I say, this is how the stories go. So you get your story with the recipe in the story, and then the recipes at the end. And then chapter 4 is about Auntie Jean's birthday. So obviously Auntie Jean has got her birthday, and they decide to make her a cake. And you'll notice in my last video, episode 4, we made Victoria sponge. Well, the Victoria sponge is in this book. So this is the recipe that they make for Auntie Jean. So that is Victoria sponge. Chapter 5 is a family reunion. Or incidentally, in chapter 4, there's a naughty character throughout these books, but he only crops up in chapter 4. Chapter 3 is when he first crops up. He's a naughty character called Rick's the Raccoon, and he jumps out of bushes and he frightens people, and he pinches stuff out of Cherry's kitchen, pinches off all her food, and he causes a lot of mischief and mayhem. So he crops up in chapter 3. That's when we first hear from him. So chapter 5 is all about a family reunion. Now, you'll notice in the first 4 chapters there was just Cherry and Peaches, her daughter. Well, her dad, Jack, works on a boat, and he works for 2 weeks at a time. So he's been away on his boat. So he's coming home today, and she's got a brother, Freddie. He's been on a trip to France. So he comes back today from his trip from France. So they're all reunited. So they decide to make some cookies. They make some apricot and pecan cookies as a welcome home for the two that are coming home. And then in chapter 6, they have a trip to the beach. Because they're all back together again, they decide to have a nice family day out. So they have a nice trip to the beach. But as you can imagine, Rick's raccoon gets involved and ends up causing a lot of mischief as well. And final chapter is chapter 7 is a summer party. At the end of the summer, they always have a family party, and in the garden with balloons and everything and lots of food. And Rick's raccoon crops up again and causes trouble. And then at the end, you'll have your secret recipe, which your red ingredients will have made. So that is book 1. Last November, so 2022, I decided to write my second book, which is Cherry Bakewell Winter Fun. Now, incidentally, all these pictures have been done by Lara Carem, who is an amazing illustrator, and you'll have noticed in one of the previous episodes I interviewed her, and we sort of discussed how she got started. And what she's going to do on a future episode, she's actually going to do she's going to describe how to actually draw Cherry Bakewell. So she's going to do like a tutorial and show us how to actually draw Cherry, which would be quite nice as well. So Winter Fun is actually a bigger book. Now this one has also got 7 chapters, but they're a little bit bigger. And the first chapter is called Spike the Hedgehog, and it's all about a hedgehog coming to visit Cherry in the garden, and Rickster ends up getting spikes in his nose. And the recipe for that one that they're doing on that chapter is sausage, leek and bean pie, which is really nice. So that's that one. Chapter 2. Now chapter 2, it's a really funny one. This is an actual story that was taken from my family life with my mum. She decided one day, my mum, to make some popcorn. And she put the popcorn in the saucepan. My brother was there as well. And the recipe had said to put a certain amount in the saucepan. But she decided, oh no, it's all right, it's a big saucepan, we'll put it all in. And I always remember my brother saying, Mum, I don't think you ought to put all that much in, that's too much. But she did, she poured it all in. Well, she had hold of the lid, and you could gradually see the lid rising and rising and rising. And in the end, she decided to take the lid off the popcorn, and oh no, it was the worst thing she did. She took the lid off and the popcorn was flying everywhere, all around the kitchen. My brother and I were laughing so much. It was the most funny thing I've ever witnessed. It was hilarious. Well, that story is chapter 2, which is called Popping Fun. And I'll just show you the picture with them all running around the kitchen trying to catch the popcorn, with Rick's the raccoon down here opening his mouth trying to catch the popcorn. So that is a really funny chapter, and that brought back a lot of memories doing that one. And then chapter 3 is about poor old Rickster. So Rickster has a bad time in this chapter. He's in Cherry's garden and under an apple tree, and an apple falls on his head. And then later on, he gets a spike. He's chasing Spike the Hedgehog. He's playing football, and he bumps into Spike the Hedgehog and gets a spike in his nose as well. So he doesn't have a very good time in this chapter. And let's say, because of the apples, Cherry decides to make an apple cake in this recipe. It's a really nice recipe as well, nice and moist as well. So that's that recipe. Chapter 4 is about Spooktacular Halloween. Now, as I say, this book is based on Winter Fun, so it's from sort of September right up to Christmas. So you've got the autumn, and you've got bonfire night and Halloween and Christmas and all those sort of things. So it's a really nice book because you've got all those different seasons coming up. So chapter 4, Spooktacular Halloween, is obviously about Halloween. And I'll just show you this Halloween picture that Lara did as well. Look at that beautiful picture. She really, really captured the scene of the village really, really well. And there's Rickster dressed up as a skeleton chasing Nippy down the garden. So that's a funny chapter. And the recipe in that one is cheese and bacon baked potatoes. So that's a nice one. And then chapter 5 is called Whiz Bang Sparkle. Well, you can guess what that one's about. That one's all about bonfire night. So they build a bonfire in the garden, and before they have the bonfire, Peaches is in the garden, and she goes out into the garden for something, and Rickster Raccoon is hiding behind the shed, and he's got one of these, you know, these big water blasters. Well, he gets her with the water blaster. Look, he thinks he's being really funny, and he absolutely soaks her. So that's quite funny. But because of that, when they have the firework party in the evening, Jack decides to get Rickster back, because they know that he'll come round to the party. So he lets all the fireworks off, and he's got one last firework, which is a large, really, really loud firework, and he keeps it to the end, right to the end. So they do all the fireworks, they have their food, because they do tomato soup in this one as well, and they have all their food, and then just as Rickster think everything's over, Jack sets off the big firework, and Rickster doesn't know anything about it, and he's eating some crisps at the time, and when this loud banger goes off, he ends up dropping his crisps, and there you can see him dropping, throwing all his crisps in the air. So that's a really funny chapter. And then chapter 6 is called Snowy Fun. So that's where they go sledging and have a snowball fight, and there they are, they're getting Rickster down. That's the front cover of the book. They're sledging. He knocks Cherry and Jack off their sledge, and so what they decide to do is go back to the top of the hill and get Rickster, and they all come down and bombard him with snowballs. So that's quite good. And the recipe in that one is shortbread fingers and homemade hot chocolate, real hot chocolate. So that's nice. And then the final chapter in that one is Pop Goes Christmas. So it's all about, obviously you can imagine, Christmas. And the pop bit is, Rickster's quite naughty at the end, and he lets some party poppers off, quite a few party poppers off at the end. So there's the final scene in that one, where Rickster's letting off all the party poppers. So I really enjoyed doing this book, the second one. It's really funny, and I like the way it's gone through all the seasons as well. And as I say, the pictures in this book are beautiful. They really are lovely. So thank you to Lara for doing all those for me. And she's also, what she's done is she's done some dot to dots as well. So you've got dot to dots in there as well. There's another one there. There's a dot to dot of Rickster. And there's also some colouring pictures as well. So you've got colouring to do as well, some colouring pictures. So that's those two books. There is going to be a third one on the way. I have got some ideas of which way I want to go. So I think that's going to be probably started probably towards the end of, probably in the autumn I'll probably start that one, I think. Just a few ideas mulling over at the moment. So there's going to be 6 in the series. So there's going to be 6 books. So the third one I'm sort of just deciding what I'm going to do at the moment. So that's on its way. Next week's episode is going to be chocolate brownies. Quite a popular recipe. So we're going to be doing some chocolate brownies, so they're nice and gooey in the middle as well, so hopefully you'll enjoy those. And as I say, on a future episode, we're going to be doing an interview again with Lara, who's going to be showing you how to draw cherries. So that'd be quite nice if there's any children watching that want to learn how to draw, that she's going to do like a tutorial and show you how to draw cherries. So that'd be quite nice. And as I say, if you've got any suggestions for recipes you want me to try, I'm more than happy to do that. Any questions you've got, if you've got any queries with your recipes that things don't work out and you want some help with anything, please let me know. Please subscribe to the channel. There'll be lots more fun and recipes and interviews along the way. So please subscribe and follow me. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the videos. So take care till next week, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.